You are washing dishes, or driving to work, or lying in bed at 2 in the morning trying to sleep. The room is completely silent. The radio has been off for hours. And yet, without any warning, a 10-second fragment of a song you haven't consciously thought about in years starts playing inside your head on an endless loop. The same line, the same beat, over and over again. You try to think about something else, the grocery list, a work problem, anything. But the melody cuts right through it. You hum it without meaning to. You catch yourself tapping the rhythm on the desk, and somehow, the more you notice it, the louder it gets. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what your brain is doing when this happens, and the mechanism behind it reveals something far more significant than a musical glitch. It reveals how your mind decides what is finished, what is unresolved, and what must be kept active until it gets an answer. Because the real discovery here isn't about music. It's about how your brain classifies every single experience you have, and what it does with the ones that don't have a clean ending. Most of us treat this as one of life's small absurdities. You shrug, call it an annoying catchy tune, and wait for it to pass. But researchers studying what is technically known as involuntary musical imagery, INMI, have found that this phenomenon is anything but trivial. It is extraordinarily common. Studies suggest that roughly 98% of people experience earworms regularly, and for about a third of those people, it happens at least once a day. More importantly, when scientists began scanning the brains of people experiencing these musical loops, what they saw wasn't the faint trace of a distant memory. The auditory cortex, the region of the brain responsible for processing sound, was lighting up almost identically to how it fires when a person is actually hearing music played out loud in the room. Your brain is not lazily recalling a song. It is actively generating a full auditory simulation, hallucinating sound, in the most precise neurological sense of the word. If you want to keep understanding what your brain is doing behind the scenes, all the hidden processes running constantly without your permission or your awareness, this channel exists exactly for that. Subscribe now. Every video is a new discovery about what it actually means to be a thinking, feeling human being. So, the obvious explanation. Ask most people why a song gets stuck in their head, and they'll say some version of, "It was catchy, upbeat tempo, simple, repetitive melody." That's all it is. And yes, research does confirm that certain musical features increase the probability of triggering an earworm, a faster pace, a pitch pattern that rises and falls in an unexpected way, a hook that the brain finds slightly harder to predict than it expected. Songs with these qualities are statistically more likely to get stuck. But here is the problem with stopping at "it was catchy." If your brain simply liked the song, it would play the whole song. It doesn't. Almost universally, what gets trapped is a very specific, very short section, most commonly a chorus of 8 to 16 seconds that your brain repeats compulsively and indefinitely, rather than resolving naturally into the next verse, the bridge, the final chord. The behavior isn't consistent with simple enjoyment. It is consistent with something being incomplete. To understand what is actually happening, you have to go back to a discovery made in the 1920s by a psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik. She was sitting in a cafe in Vienna when she observed something that seemed small but would turn out to have enormous implications for how we understand memory and motivation. She noticed that the waiters around her had a remarkable ability. They could hold extraordinarily complex, multi-course orders in their heads perfectly, remembering exactly who ordered what, with what modifications, at which table. But the moment a table paid their bill and left, the waiter forgot the order almost immediately and completely. It wasn't that the waiters had poor memory. Their memory for the unpaid orders was excellent. It was that their memory for completed orders collapsed the second the task was resolved. Zeigarnik went back to the lab and tested this systematically. She had subjects work on a series of small tasks, puzzles, arithmetic problems, simple construction challenges, and interrupted half of them before they could finish. Later, when she asked subjects to recall the tasks they had worked on, the interrupted, unfinished tasks were remembered nearly twice as well as the completed ones. Her conclusion became one of the foundational principles of cognitive psychology. The human brain maintains an active, elevated state of attention toward uncompleted tasks. An unfinished task creates what psychologists call cognitive tension, a low-grade mental alert that keeps the task circulating in working memory, preventing it from being filed away and forgotten until the task is resolved. This is the Zeigarnik effect, and it is exactly what your auditory cortex is doing with that chorus. When you hear a highly repetitive melodic fragment, especially one that is structured to feel like it should resolve into something that never comes, your brain registers as an open task. It identifies a pattern that hasn't been properly completed, and the Zeigarnik mechanism fires. Keep this active. Keep searching for the resolution. Don't let it go until it closes. Your auditory cortex begins simulating the audio internally, running the loop again and again, essentially trying to finish the song by finding where it goes next. But if the resolution isn't in memory, if you only know the chorus and not what comes after, the loop hits a dead end and starts over. The brain is not malfunctioning. It is executing its standard incomplete task protocol on a musical pattern. Now here is where something unexpected enters the picture, and it changes the way you'll think about the whole phenomenon. Logically, you would assume the solution is to actively push the song out of your mind, to concentrate hard on something else and override the loop through willpower. But there is a well-documented cognitive phenomenon that makes this strategy almost perfectly counterproductive. It is called ironic process theory, first described by the social psychologist Daniel Wegner, and it works like this. Whenever you consciously try to suppress a thought, whenever you tell yourself don't think about the song, your brain has to operate two simultaneous processes. One process actually tries to think about other things, but a second process, a monitoring process, has to keep a constant background check to make sure the suppressed thought hasn't returned. And in order to check whether you are still thinking about the song, that monitoring process has to reference the song. It has to know what it's looking for in order to look for it. The result is that the harder you try to actively not think about the song, the more often that background monitor references it, and the more active the loop stays. A study from researchers in musical cognition confirmed this directly. Subjects who were explicitly told to suppress an earworm reported it persisting significantly longer than subjects who were given no such instruction and simply allowed the loop to run its course. Suppression prolongs the very thing it is trying to eliminate. So, what actually works? The most scientifically supported solution is counterintuitive but precise. Engage with the song deliberately and complete it. Listen to the entire track from beginning to end, all the way through the final fade-out. This provides the auditory cortex with the resolution it has been searching for. The open task is closed. The cognitive tension dissipates. The Zeigarnik loop stops circulating because the brain has received what it was waiting for. If you can't play the song, if you are somewhere without access to it, there is a second mechanism worth knowing about. The earworm relies on a neural resource called the phonological loop, the subvocal rehearsal system your brain uses to hold and process language and sound in short-term memory. When you internally hear a melody, you are engaging this system. Research has found that the phonological loop can be disrupted by competing motor demands, specifically the motor programs used in speech articulation, which is why chewing gum, of all things, has empirical support as an earworm intervention. The jaw movements involved in chewing interfere with the articulatory programs the brain uses to internally simulate the music. It is not perfect, and it is not permanent, but the data is real. If this video helped you finally understand why your brain tortures you with that chorus, share it with someone who has been suffering through the same loop. They'll thank you for it. And now, the piece of this that most explanations of earworms miss entirely. The implication that goes well beyond annoying pop songs. The Zeigarnik effect isn't just a quirk of musical memory. It is one of the primary mechanisms by which your brain decides what to keep and what to release. Unfinished conversations circle back into your thoughts. Arguments you never fully resolved return at inconvenient moments. Projects you started but haven't completed keep surfacing in your awareness. The same mechanism that traps a chorus in your head is the one that makes it so difficult to stop thinking about something you said to someone that landed wrong, or a decision you made that you haven't fully settled in your own mind. Your brain is not arbitrary about what it keeps active. It is specifically, relentlessly focused on what is unresolved. The earworm is just the most musically obvious version of a process that shapes your attention constantly across every domain of your experience. Understanding that changes what the loop means. It isn't noise, it is your brain's memory system working exactly as designed, flagging an open file, maintaining a state of active readiness, refusing to archive what hasn't been finished. The frustration you feel is just a side effect of a machine that was built to take unfinished business extremely seriously. Have you ever had a song loop in your head for days, or even woken up in the middle of the night with a chorus still running? Tell me in the comments which song it was, and whether you found anything that actually made it stop. Your brain doesn't waste energy on what's finished. It saves everything it has for the things still waiting to be resolved.